So we're Vav Modal of 6a. And the Gemara is discussing or analyzing a dispute between Rav Sheshes and Rabbi Yosef. So here are the layers of the dispute to try to clarify it in a systematic way. The first thing is the Mishnah. We can safely assume from the Mishnah that witnesses are useful to us even after she drinks the water. We've come to that conclusion from our Mishnah because our Mishnah says that witnesses coming forth and telling us that she was unfaithful will prevent her from eating truma if she's married to a kohen. Now, when is the usefulness of this information? That these witnesses are coming forth and telling us she was unfaithful. If it's before she drank the water, then she's just a regular Zona. She's a regular unfaithful woman. There's no uniqueness to this law. It has nothing to do with the Sotah. Witnesses came and said she was unfaithful, so that's the end of that. So if the Mishnah is telling us in the context of Sotah, a unique law, that witnesses come forth and tell us she was unfaithful, and as a result she doesn't eat truma, we have to assume, therefore, that this is after she even drinks the water. Even after she drinks the water, there's usefulness for the witnesses to arrive and tell us she was unfaithful. That's what we can infer from the Mishnah. That's step one in this process. Okay, so now we've established that the witnesses are useful. If they arrive even after she drank the water, then we have to therefore conclude that the waters aren't foolproof. They aren't going to automatically test her, and automatically going to verify for us whether she is faithful or not. Because if the waters are 100% accurate, if the waters are 100% effective all the time, then what's the usefulness of the witnesses? The waters will tell us if she's faithful or not. And if the waters if she doesn't die, that means the waters are telling us she was innocent, then the witnesses are liars. Right? They are no use to us. They're only useful to us if the waters aren't 100% effective all the time. So what are the things that would cause the waters to not be effective, thus making the value of those witnesses? Following? And here's the dispute. Rav Sheshes says, it's Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says that the reason why the waters are not effective is because there are witnesses in the world. So when a Sotah drinks the Sotah water and she's healthy, it's one of two options. Either she's innocent, or there are witnesses somewhere in the world that know what happened. And the very fact that there are witnesses out there that know about it render the waters ineffective. Implied from the verse that there's no witnesses, and we deduce from that there are no witnesses at all, period, in the world. She's not a Sotah candidate anymore, and therefore the water is ineffective, because the Sotah candidate is specifically when no one knows what happened, except for the two of them. Okay, so now if there could be one of two reasons why the waters aren't effective, either because she's innocent or because there are witnesses out there in the world. If that's the case, then we would love for witnesses to come forth and tell us what happened. So even after she drank the water, the fact that it didn't kill her doesn't conclusively tell us she is innocent, and therefore there's usefulness to the witnesses. That's Rav Sheshes. Clear? Rabbi Yosef says, the reason we need witnesses, the reason why witnesses are of use to us, even after she drank the Sotah waters, is not because there are witnesses out there in the world and that prevents its effectiveness, but because there's something else that can prevent its effectiveness. Namely, a merit. Now, if that's the case, a woman drinks the Sotah waters, nothing happens to her. We still don't know that she's innocent. Maybe there's a merit, or maybe she's innocent. And therefore, we do want witnesses to come forth and tell us what happened, because it isn't conclusive. But that would be Rav Shesh's reason for why the waters are ineffective. Rav Yosef is disputing that. Rabbi Yosef says that the presence of witnesses do not render it ineffective. So he's finding a different variable that might render it ineffective. The merit. Now we get to stage 3 in the Gemara. And this is where we left off yesterday. What happens when there's a merit? What happens when there's a merit? So if you're of the view that a merit makes her completely healthy, and this is your view of what the sages believe, then the fact that she drank the Sotah Waters and remains healthy is not conclusive that she's innocent. And therefore we need the witnesses to arrive, because the merit could keep her completely healthy, notwithstanding her guilt. So there's still a doubt as to what happened behind closed doors, because maybe the merit's keeping her healthy, or maybe her innocence. And therefore we need the witnesses. If, however, you're of the view that even with a merit, she doesn't die right away, but she slowly starts to deteriorate. And then there's a dispute. When she deteriorates, at the end of her life, she dies a natural death, or does she die at the end of her life the death described in the Sotah, where the stomach explodes, etc. But either way, wherever you stand on the question of what happens at the end of her life, you are of the view right now that if she has a merit, she should still be deteriorating. Now, if that's the case, then if she's completely healthy after she drinks the water, then it could not be merit, because merit would only mean she deteriorates, and she's not deteriorating. So the merit cannot be what's preventing her from the having negative effect. So in that case, the only other variable is that the witnesses are preventing it from being effective. And there's the dispute. If you're of the view that she deteriorates, then the effectiveness of the witnesses described in our Mishnah is because the witnesses themselves prevent her from being effective, prevent the waters from being effective. But if you're of the view that her merit protects her completely, and in this way she's completely healthy, then the presence of a merit can prevent the effectiveness of the water, and that would be why we need witnesses to arrive even after she drank the water. That's where we are in the dispute between Rav Sheshes and Rav Yosef. So this is a little clearer, systematic.
So how do you find witnesses? What if they moved out of the country? They didn't have long distance phones, or
actually assumes that they're out of the country, that they did move out of the country, and therefore we don't know. And until they arrive, we have to just assume that Alan's asking what happens if the witnesses aren't there. How do you find them? So the truth is that we don't know. We don't know. We can't define them. We have no idea where they are, and they either come forth or don't come forth. But until they come forth and she's healthy, we assume because she's innocent until proven guilty, right? At this point, she's innocent because the waters are not killing her, so she's innocent. Only later, when witnesses arrive, then we'll have to retroactively change our position. But at the moment, we have to take what we have, and the information in front of us is that she's innocent. But if it's a question of a deterioration, if she's slowly deteriorating, then there is no use of witnesses. Yes, that's correct. Right? So there is no use, right? If she's slowly deteriorating, then that would mean that certainly it's conclusive to her. Actually, yeah, it's conclusive to her guilt. Yes. Yeah, but that's only according to the view that says that her merit would make her deteriorate, right? But according to the view that merit completely, she's healthy, there's no reason for her to deteriorate. Either she dies or she survives, right? Okay, what do you say? What do you say, Alan?
no, I was just going to say the same thing I said last time. Why take the water? If you're fooling around,
the reason
you're fooling around.
Yeah, I mentioned the only reason why she take the waters is because she wants to prove her innocence to the world. The whole world is talking.
If she's innocent,
right? If she's innocent, yeah.
But if she knows she's guilty, why should she want to do it? I mean, she wants to die a slow death. She wants to die immediately.
If she's guilty, she would probably.
She's not happy with this guy, anyways.
Yeah.
That's why she went to somebody else.
Yeah. If she's guilty, I would imagine the prudent thing would be to divorce.
Sure.
That would be the smart thing to do if she was indeed guilty.
If I was fooling around with another woman,
yeah.
means I'm not crazy about my wife now.
Yeah.
And divorce.
In addition to proving innocence, if she's innocent, then the water turns into a blessing, right? So, like the story of Hannah, right? We read the story on Rosh Hashanah. She was a Sotah, and she did it on purpose because she wanted to get the blessings. She feigned the whole relationship she feigned this whole thing, got warned, secluded, had witnesses, the whole thing. Also, she can drink the water and get blessings. She didn't have any children.
That's interesting that would work, because I would imagine a lot of women who want blessings would do such a thing.
Yeah, maybe it's a little risky, and maybe it's not. This is what obviously Hashem wanted her to get the blessing. So anyway, so those are the reasons why she might drink the waters, to prove her innocence. Maybe she actually still loves her husband, and she wants to prove to her husband that she's innocent. It just so happened, because of the circumstances, she was secluded with this guy, but she still loves her husband. She still wants to be with him, and she doesn't want to lose her rights to the ketubah. So she'll drink the water, prove her innocence, and be happy married. That's the reason why we should go through with it. But she has a choice. She can opt out and go for divorce, if that's the case.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm surprised they didn't have something like a rabbinic oath that she would have to take, like in money cases where you take
an oath. Good question. Why there's an oath involved here? Good question. But this is the mitzvah of the Torah, why the Torah is it?
Actually, a lot of the details are knocked down. I go into it, right? It's a very demoralizing experience.
Yeah, it's not a very pleasant experience, this whole thing. We're gonna get the details are gonna emerge soon. We're gonna see. Actually, we're gonna see. I don't know if we'll get there today, but we're gonna see a certain one detail is going to emerge in the next few lines in the Gemara, and it's pretty wild, actually. We're gonna see. Okay. All right. So now the Gemara introduces a question that Robert, you mentioned yesterday. So it's the last word on the wider set of lines, Mosiv. Mosiv, the following challenge was presented. The word Mosiv is similar to the word Mesve, and it's a question that is presented by a text that is greater than the one speaking. So it's going to be, we're going to quote a text that's a Mishnaic age, which would contradict Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes, who are the Gemara age. So Mosiv Rav Simi Bar Ashi. Rav Simi Bar Ashi raised the following objection. The Mishnaic age text reads as follows. Rabbi Shimon says, Ein schus toila b'mayim hamarim. Merit alone is not enough to prevent the waters from being effective. It cannot. And it's very logical why he says a merit should not work. Because if you are to suggest that a merit that the woman has prevents the effectiveness of the bitter waters of the waters, then you are pushing literally the water before all women, meaning to say, the women, right? Part of this whole process is to scare the woman into admitting in a guilt, right? Like you said, Alan, if she's guilty, she's going to back out. So if there's a merit that can prevent it from being effective, she'll say, well, whatever, I'm guilty, but I know I have enough merit. I'll drink it and I'll take my chances. That's number one. So you're ruining the point of it. Part of the point of the water is that it should be an absolute, like if you are guilty, there's a certain death. A major deterrent for them to lie, and a major reason to admit to guilt. And if you're going to say that there's a merit that can prevent it, then women might say, look, I'm a very, very good woman. I've given tons of charity. I don't know, I'm a very kind person. So no one has to know that I'm guilty, and I'm going to drink the water, and I'm going to know that between me and Hashem, I'm going to be okay. I'll take the chance. That's number one. Yeah. And we don't want the waters to be drunk, because also every time we drink the waters, we're erasing God's name. right? And we're hoping the woman's going to say, come forth and say, look, I'm guilty. Leave it alone. Let's not drink this. Let's not do this. That's what we're hoping for. If indeed there's guilt. That's number one. And number two, and this is the point you are making, Robert, you are giving a bad name to those who are innocent. Because people will say, these women were actually guilty, but because a merit prevented them from dying. So every woman who drinks the waters and is completely healthy, you're casting doubt on their innocence. The whole point of the waters is, and now she clears her name, like we were saying before, she clears her name, and if she walks out, I'm innocent and I'm healthy. And now you're saying, says Rabbi Shimon, this is very logical. He says, so now you're saying that the merit could prevent. So everybody's going to say, oh, you know why she's still alive? Because she gave charity, or because she's kind to her guest, or because she davens and prays. But she's really innocent. She's really guilty. We know she loves that other guy. And now you're trying to clear this woman's name, and it backfires. What do you say, Robert?
More so on that reason, because I think yesterday you pointed out that if you're exonerated based on merit, you don't necessarily get the blessings that are accorded to someone who's.
Yeah, you may not get the blessings. Yeah.
You may not get the blessings. The blessings are what gives the community the proof.
The affirmation.
He really was innocent.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get those blessings, then it gives.
That's right. It casts. Yeah. It puts makes the whole thing suspect. Makes the whole thing suspect. The whole point is to clear someone's name, and now you're not even getting that effectiveness because people are going to point them fingers and say, "Oh, she's a nice lady," and that's why she got spared. What do you say?
What if she was caught having an affair with a man?
Yeah.
Or secluding herself one time with a man, okay? And she was drunk or something like that, and she didn't realize what she's doing. She was a good woman. Could she do tshuva?
She can certainly do tshuva, and that's between her and Hashem. But the court can't. Alan's asking if she can do teshuva. She made a mistake. Can she do teshuva? So the truth is that a person can always do teshuva, but teshuva is between man and God. Between man and man, we can only judge as a court. We can only judge that which our eyes see. This is the law. A court can only determine law based on what it can observe. And if you observed, negative behavior, we have to go with the consequences. It's the same thing as someone who mistakenly stole. We still have to go through all the laws, even if we acknowledge and maybe even encourage your teshuva, but there's nothing we can do about it. We have to go through the law. Same thing with, God forbid, murder or anything else like that. So teshuva is available, but us as the court, we have to go through with the law because that's just the way the law is.
Hashem could always change their minds.
Change
the minds of the
judge. Hashem
of
the court, but look, the court has to. Hashem doesn't interfere with that kind of thing. Hashem gives us free choice, and that's the way it is. Hashem wants to do whatever He wants with her. Obviously, He will.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's continue. Let's follow along with Rabbi Simi Bar Ashi's argument, quoting Rabbi Shimon. Okay, so that was a statement from Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon argues, and to me it seems rather effective, rather reasonable, that the waters must be absolutely effective all the time. Otherwise, you're casting aspersions on the whole thing. Number one, women aren't going to be scared to drink it because there are variables, and maybe I won't get hit. I'll take my chances. Maybe I have enough merit. Sorry? It's rolling the dice. And maybe I have enough merit to prevent this whole thing from hitting me. Number one. Number two, maybe not, yeah. Number two is innocent women are going to be suspect and say, look, the reason why you survived the waters is not because you're innocent. You're really guilty. We know you love that other guy. But you're innocent. You didn't die because you have a merit. So you're casting aspersions on the whole thing. And therefore, Rabbi Simi Bar Ashi follows through and says, and if you're of the opinion, both Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes, Rav Sheshes, that Yeshla Edom Medinas Hayam, that the presence of witnesses somewhere out there in the world, overseas, Nami too, if the presence of witnesses as well prevents the effectiveness of the water, then you have the same issue. You are casting aspersions. You're giving a bad name to the innocents. Shasasha was drank, and people will say, "Oh, Timeya saw you. You guys are really innocent. You guys are really guilty." But you have witnesses somewhere on the other side of the world. The same logic applies. So if people are going to cast aspersions on the and say that this woman is really guilty, but a merit prevented her from dying. So this is a much easier one. Say, oh, she's really guilty, and the reason why she didn't die is because there's people who saw it. They went off. So again, you're cutting holes in the whole thing. So this is Rav Shimon bar Asi's question, challenging Rav Sheshes' position, which is Rav Yosef's of the position that only merit will prevent the water's effectiveness. Rav Sheshes is of the opinion that merit will make her deteriorate, but not completely ineffective. Whereas, but Rav Yosef maintains, Rav Sheshes maintains that the presence of witnesses somewhere in the world prevents the effectiveness of the waters, and he too is casting aspersions on the waters, making it doubtful every time that someone walks away healthy after drinking the waters, because maybe there's witnesses out there somewhere, right? In fact, this I don't see this explicitly, but if a woman's really diabolical, she's really diabolical. What she can do is she can have an affair, pay witnesses to be there, and so long as why not?
She knows there's witnesses. Anyone knows there's witnesses.
1 second. If she knows there's witnesses, it renders the waters ineffective. What's the difference to her knowledge? She pays witnesses to see the. Sorry. Why can't you know about witnesses? The point is, there's witnesses out there. We don't know about it. The court doesn't know about it. But the presence of witnesses renders the waters ineffective.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Right? So if she hires people to watch, she's really that diabolical.
Right.
She can hire witnesses to watch. And so long as she can trust them to not testify in court, she'll drink the waters. She's completely guilty, and she'll walk off scot-free. Because the witnesses prevent. So I don't see this written anywhere, but it seems to me like it would work in this logic. So the Gemara says like this, in answering this question. Rabbi Shimon ka'amris. You are asking a question based on the view of Rabbi Shimon, who is worried about us casting doubt on the waters. Look, Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, and if according to him, merit does not prevent the water's effectiveness, witnesses also don't prevent. In other words, like this. We have a dispute that predates us, right? We are sitting in the Gemara's age. We have a dispute in the Mishnah that this predates us, that goes back to the Mishnah age, between Rabbi Shimon and the rest of the sages, as to whether or not merit is effective to prevent. Right? According to the sages, it protects. According to Rabbi, it causes her to deteriorate. And according to Rabbi Shimon, it doesn't prevent at all. Right? It doesn't render it ineffective at all. So Rabbi Shimon would say the same thing applies to witnesses. In other words, if you're going to go with the line of reasoning of Rabbi Shimon, then take it all away. Yes. But if you're of the view that merit does prevent her from dying, then witnesses can also prevent her from dying. If for whatever reason you're ignoring the logic of Rabbi Shimon, then you can ignore the logic when it comes to witnesses also. You, Rabbi Simi, are trying to make a contradiction to Rav Sheshes and saying, how could you say witnesses prevent the effectiveness of the water? Seemingly you have to contend with the issue of Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shimon's issue is that you're casting doubt on the waters. So the Gemara's response is, we're not taking into account Rabbi Shimon's concern, because the earlier sages don't either. The ones who are the earlier sages who are of the view that merit prevents the waters from being effective, they obviously discount Rabbi Shimon's logic. So we can discount it with regard to the witnesses too. We do, because there are opinions which say that that merit is effective. As much as I'm sitting here and saying that Rabbi Shimon sounds logical, clearly the sages earlier disagreed with that, because they're of the view that merit is effective to prevent the waters.
But isn't the best witness the man she was with?
What do you say, Robert? Yes, but we have earlier sages too. Rabbi, who said that the merit causes it to deteriorate, and the sages which disagreed with Rabbi, at least according to one view, which said that the merit completely protects her, right? Obviously, they disagree with Rabbi Shimon. In other words, Rabbi Shimon's idea that we're concerned with people doubting innocent women. Obviously, that's not a concern to many of the sages, even if it's a concern to Rabbi Shimon. And if it's not a concern, it's either because or not. Either way, they just aren't concerned with Rabbi Shimon's issue. And if they're not concerned with Rabbi Shimon's issue, and they're not concerned with the presence of witness either. Because the same logic, exactly, the same logic applies there. So if you discount it here with respect to merit, then you discount it with respect to witnesses. So don't introduce Rabbi Shimon, whose of you we're not counting anyway, to contradict our position, even though Rabbi Shimon's logic is sound. So in other words, what's incumbent upon us, you and I sitting here, is to try to understand those who disagree with Rabbi Shimon. Meaning we understood Rabbi Shimon, as you said yesterday, but we're the listeners, right? So we have to listen to what the sages are saying with discount Rabbi Shimon, and we have to think about why it is a discount. And I'm inclined to say the reason is because I've said this a number of times. God doesn't need lawyers; Jews need lawyers. So if we're going to find a way to protect Jewish lives, then let's do it. You're worried that every now and again there's going to be an innocent woman who's going to be seen as guilty. We'll take that risk if it means protecting a couple of Jewish women's lives. You're worried that Hashem's reputation is on the line, and don't worry about God's reputation so much. Don't be God's lawyers. Be Jewish people's lawyers. And if we can find a way to make the law in such a way that we're protecting a few more women, so be it. And there's going to be doubts and there's going to be questions. Okay, that's a risk it's a risk worth taking if we here can find some way that the law is going to keep a few more Jewish women alive. Maybe that's the reason why the sages discount Rabbi Shimon's logic, notwithstanding that it's sound logic. Yeah. In other words, Rabbi Shimon's looking at the purity of it. What's the purity of the law? And the purity of the law is it must be effective all the time, otherwise the law is becoming questionable. Whereas the sages are saying, okay, the purity of the law, God will worry about. Let's see if we can figure out a way to make the law that a couple less women die. Let's find other variables that will keep them alive. A merit, other witnesses somewhere out there in the world. Okay, let's pile on more. You're worried about the doubts of Hashem's laws? Don't worry about God's laws so much. God doesn't need lawyers. He'll find his way to prove his points. Don't worry about it. Maybe. Sit through the capital punishment. That's correct, yes. In that even though, that's correct, it's incumbent upon the sages to find a way that capital punishment never be implemented. Even though Torah says in tons of laws that there should be capital punishment, nonetheless, the system is such. Hashem gave tools to the sages to find a bunch of ways that the capital punishment should not happen, even though Torah says that it should happen. So maybe that's the reason, same thing here. The sages are trying to find a way where she doesn't have to die. Even if the law is going to become in doubt, don't worry about it. God will figure out a way to protect him, to defend himself. Okay, Alan, what were you going to say? I interrupted you earlier.
I was going to say, well, why don't they call the best witness is the man she was with?
Well, presumably he would. Alan's asking, why don't you call the man she was with? Ask him to say what happened.
That's right.
He's going to lie. He doesn't want to be caught. He doesn't want to be publicly shamed as a guy who slept with somebody else's wife. Presumably he would lie, right? He's what in halacha we call him a nageh b'davar, which means he has ulterior motive, and therefore his testimony would be discounted. He's party to the what's the legal term for it? He's party to the action. He's party to the action, and therefore his testimony would be discounted. You have to find witnesses that have no vested interest. He actually might want the divorce, even though, by the way, Titus. That's right. Even though we punish him in that he cannot marry that woman. He can't marry that woman even after divorce. He's not allowed to marry her. But anyway, he's party to the action, and therefore his testimony will be discounted. We have to find someone who are impartial as can be. Okay, so I hope we got some clarity. We also got a nice, interesting angle, two different ways of looking at it: purity of the law versus defending the Jews. Defending the Jew, even if it comes at the cost of the purity of the law. Anyway, this is where this is where my mind and heart get split. If I'm going to sit back like a Stoic philosopher and say which one's better for the law, maybe I'd go with Rabbi Shimon. But if a woman come before me, do I really want to go with Rabbi Shimon and say that she has no chance of survival? Is that really what I want? Even if in some abstract philosophical discussion, I would say, yeah, the law is the law. Anyway.
Well, I guess we'll get into it later, but apparently the Sotah practice was abolished, right, at some point?
Yeah.
I mean, even prior to the temple's destruction.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, so I'm not going to comment on when it ended. But I imagine it'll come up in the Gemara soon. I don't remember offhand when the Sotah ended. Yeah, it could be. I don't remember. Okay, have a wonderful day, everybody. Continue, God willing, tomorrow.